In this video, I'm going to go over the bobble stitch, which is sometimes also referred to as the popcorn stitch. This is a stitch that uses something similar to double crochet stitch and the single stitch to give you a fabric that's this kind of really funky, bumpy texture if you're doing straight bobble stitch. You can also use it to add just the points of a kind of bump in your fabric to create all kinds of interesting funky patterns and textures and things. So I'm going to go over both ways that you can use this to create different looks. Alright, to start with, I'm going to go over how to just go about doing straight just bobble stitch. Alright, so to begin, you're going to need a chain to figure out the number of chain stitches that you're going to need. What you're going to do is divide the number of bobble stitches you want in your first row by 2. So I'm going to start with 7 bobble stitches in my first row. So I have a chain here of 14 chain stitches. Alright, to start, what you're going to do is just starting in the first chain from your hook, you're just going to do a row of single crochet. Just all the way across. Once you've finished your first row of single crochet, what you're going to do is you're going to chain 3 to turn it. Then you're going to start a regular old double crochet stitch in your first stitch of the row. So just yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over again, pull it through, and then pull through your first 2 loops on your hook. Now you're not going to finish the stitch by yarning over and pulling it through the next 2. Instead, what you're going to do is yarn over again and start a second double crochet in the same stitch that you started with here. So you're going to put it right back in here, yarn over again, and again I'm going to just go through the first 2 loops here. Alright, now I have 3. So what I'm going to do, you want a total of 5 sort of double crochet stitches for each bobble stitch. So you can tell how many double crochet stitches you've done is the number of loops you have on your hook minus 1 for the one you had when you started. So I'm going to just do 2 more of these sort of double crochet stitches real fast. So I'm just going through the first 2. Now I have a total of 6 loops on my crochet hook, and what I am going to do is yarn over and pull that through all 6 of these loops. Right? And that is your first bobble stitch. Now you don't go straight into your second one. Instead, what you're first going to do is do 1 single crochet stitch in the next stitch here. Just a regular old one. Right. And then from here we're going to just start the same exact way. Start a regular old double crochet stitch, except leave the last loop here on here. Then do 4 more real fast. Yarn over and pull it through all 6 loops and do a single crochet in the next stitch. Right. And the thing about the bobble stitch is that your back here, the side that you're working on, still is going to look flat. The actual bobble that you get is on the opposite side. So each of these lumps here, that is your bobble stitch. Alright. So to continue, you just keep repeating the exact same thing until you have finished your row. Right. Once you reach the end of the row, whether you end on a bobble stitch or a single crochet stitch all depends on the number of chain stitches you started with. Both are perfectly fine. What you're going to do next is you're going to chain 2 and you're just going to do another row of single crochet doing 1 single crochet stitch in each of the bobble and single crochet stitches that you did in the last row. You're going to want to be careful here and make sure that you still have the same number of stitches at the end of this row as you did in the first row we did prior to doing any of the bobble stitches. Okay. Once you finish this row of single crochet, there's kind of 2 ways you can go on from here. You can either chain 3 and continue exactly like we did the last row, at which point your bobble stitches are going to be exactly on top of each other. In the photo tutorial below this video, you will see a picture depicting the difference between doing it that way and doing the way I'm going to describe next, if you want to see how they both look. The way I think looks a little better is the way I'm going to show you. It's going to have your bobble stitches a little offset. So instead of being directly above it here, your next bobble stitch is going to be in between them. I just think it gives it a little bit of a nicer, neater look. Alright, so to do it the second way, what you're going to do is you're going to just chain 1 to turn. And you're going to do 1 single crochet stitch in the next stitch. And from here, we are going to start our next bobble stitch by starting our first kind of half double crochet stitch. And you just go ahead and finish that one. And do our next single crochet stitch. And you can see here that the stitch that we just did there is a little bit offset like this, and it's just the way I find looks a little bit better. Right, from here you're just going to keep finishing off your row, and you're going to end up ending on a single crochet stitch this time. Right, so once you finish that row, all you're going to do is keep alternating the 2 ways you've done rows. Between each one you still need another row of single crochet, but if you finished your last row on a single crochet stitch, you're going to start the next one by doing 3 chain stitches and going right into your next bobble. And if you finish the row before on a bobble stitch, you're going to start your next row by chaining 1 and doing a single crochet stitch. And that is how you do just straight up bobble stitches. It gives you this kind of fun, funky, bumpy pattern here. The thing to note though is that this uses up a lot of yarn. So if you plan on doing something like this for an entire project, that's something you should take note of. So the other way you can really use the bobble stitch is to kind of alternate it with double crochet stitches to kind of have the bobble intermittent throughout your piece to create all kinds of different patterns. So to do that, all you need to do is just start your piece out, and you're going to need to pre-figure out kind of where you want your bobble stitches to be. So using this, as long as you plan ahead, you can really create any kind of pattern that you want in your piece using the bobble stitches. So I already have some double crochet worked up here, and to start using the bobble stitch, you're just going to go ahead and do it right in the middle of your double crochet. So you just start your next double crochet and go through with the bobble stitch exactly the same way we have been doing. The stitch itself doesn't change depending on how you're using it. Once you've finished your bobble stitch, you're still going to do a single crochet stitch in your next one, but instead of going into your next bobble stitch immediately, you're going to just do a double crochet next, if that's what your pattern is going for. Your bobble stitch isn't going to be quite as prominent as it is when it's bobble stitch after bobble stitch, but you do still get a nice lump here. And from there you just keep going, putting in bobble stitches wherever the design you came up with calls for it. It's completely up to you how many double crochet stitches are in between each bobble stitch. So the other thing you're going to want to know about doing it this way is that if I start doing bobble stitches again in my next row, now I just finished that one, they're going to be facing the opposite direction from the ones that I just did. So you're going to want to make sure you do another row in between these. If you want them closer together, do a row of single crochet instead of another row of double. You want to make sure that you are always facing away from the side that has your bobble stitches on it before you start doing more bobble stitches, or they're not going to make one nice cohesive kind of a pattern. And that is all there is to the bobble stitch. It's definitely more of a fun kind of one to do. And adds some more texture to your work, and can just be something that's really fun to play around with. It's lots of possibilities to this, so go ahead and try some out.